Thank you very much, Dr. Zhao, and particularly for the invitation for more collaboration. Those are really profound insights and offerings for the future. Now, if I could call Paul Armstrong and Graham Bell up to the podium here as well, and I think there are probably some questions people would like to address to the panel. I get a slight sense that the speakers don't feel that these academies are simply a pastime for aging academics. That was implied, at least, in their comments. But you may have different views or questions you'd like to address to any of our speakers. So, yes, there we go.
Well, thank you very much for your very considered thoughts. And like Victor, I'm actually the opposite. I'm an American living in an adopted homeland and very proud of the country I live in. But I do notice substantial differences in the roles of science, technology, and medicine between the two countries. So you have a big advantage in the United States that the medical enterprise, the science enterprise, engineering enterprises are massive economic drivers. So regardless of Republican or Democrat, both parties are interested in keeping the economy going. B, you have the enviable position because of your charter of actually being asked for opinion. In Canada, we don't have a strong science, technology, and medicine economic driver. I mean, it's a huge expenditure on the medical side, but it's not really a driver of the economy. You can ask the guy across the street there, I think, about that right now. And secondly, we don't have a process that really wants to pull information. In fact, absolute truth is sometimes an inconvenient truth for the making of policy, whether it is in medicine or science or STEM technologies.
So can you get to your question?
So my question is, well, I had to set a little bit of a background for this. So this question
we got it.
No sense. So the question is, what is the message for the Canadian academies in that enterprise? Because we have two deficits to overcome to get to the point where we could be as successful as the National Academy of Sciences in the United States.
I think we have our challenges. As you know, every day our scientists and our physicians feel beleaguered. There's not enough funding. We're losing our global competitiveness. So it's not as if it's a Shangri-La in the United States. That being said, I would say it also took us 45 years to get there. I'll bet you in our first 10 years, we have the same issues as you did. You know, we didn't get to this size. We didn't get to this. So I was saying to Paul, and I'm saying to Kathy Whiteside, one of the things I think was a pivotal moment for IOM was when Sam Thier took over as president. We were almost bankrupt. And, you know, our report's not very good at the time. And Sam made a pledge and went to the critical foundations and to say, if you invest in us for this reason, we turn this around. And what happened was that it infused certainly capital for us to be able to build the academy further. So I do think that you have to appeal to sources of funding to create a critical mass. I have some 200 staff. And I tell you, that's the greatest strength of our organization. Of course, the members are. But the staff are really policy people, the young people who came in, and maybe this is where the Tri-Academy Council, you know, is an interesting thing about how to build this. Because really what happens is that these are, you know, people coming to Ottawa wanting to do policy work, want to do good. Many of them are really doing, and having been landing in the academy, they bring tremendous insight and energy to increase the quality of our work. But my message to you is that it will take time, but the main thing is I'm not here to brag about what we do, but to give you an idea of how we have put it together, and there's still a lot of work going forward.
Paul, you had a comment?
Just to say that, as David Naylor emphasized last night, we need to be bold and in many instances not wait to be asked by government, but to find the issues, engage the public, and make things happen based on resources that we raise from a variety of sources. And I think that's an important message in a climate in which we live and work.
John, if I may just point out,
Yep.
if you look at what's happening in UK, I mean, if you say there's some parallel, I think they've now got tremendous momentum on a lot of different issues. So in many ways, you could also take a chapter from UK and say, their academy is only about 15 years old, I think, right? But the whole idea of wealth generation and NHS like yours, and the creation of, research support for more translation, etc., has changed, in my opinion, from a government service plan to really driving, and the academy is driving a lot of changes within that.
Another question.
If I could.
Yes, Graham, go ahead. Maybe, if you put your hand up so we can get the mic to you, and then Graham is going to respond as well.
I think that we tend to think in terms of the USA and the UK as being natural comparisons, but I'd like to point out what's been happening in Germany over the last 10 years. In Germany, rather as in Canada, there were weak academies. There was one in Berlin, of course, and there was also the Leopoldina Institute, a historical institute in Halle. The German government decided that it really needed a strong and authoritative source of science advice, and for that reason it was going to fund an academy. Held a competition. It was the Leopoldina that won, funded with about $50 million to provide it with a new headquarters, staff, adequate facilities, and so forth. And it's now, the whole German scene has become transformed. That's right. Now, that's happened in Germany. It could happen here. I don't think it will at the moment. I was on a radio program in Ottawa, one of the morning programs, and was asked what I meant by saying that Canada didn't have a science culture at the moment. And I said, well, you'd understand me if I said that Canada has a hockey culture at the moment. I mean, everybody's interested. It's on the news all the time. Anytime something happens, it's reported. People are interested. It's a subject of conversation. So when I say that we don't have a science culture, it means that it's the opposite of hockey. Nobody knows what's going on. It's not a topic of conversation and nobody's interested. Until that transformation occurs, I don't think the situation will change. But if it does occur, then we could be in the same position as the US, UK, and Germany and Japan. I hope it does.
Paul Hebert.
Hi, thanks for the comments. So I guess the issue of relevance and audience are all coming up, which are great. So I think one of the ways to get ourselves on the map is to be policy relevant. And Dr. Zhao, you repeatedly said versions of that. For example, if we were to pick a topic today, we would be talking about refugee and immigrant health. And we should be able to generate a report in 2 months saying what Canada should do to respond to the current issue, for example. So if I were to think about changing the academy, it would be we need to do the big reports for sure, but that's over a long stream of work, and you take the chance of not being policy relevant. The real issue is you have to be able to do more than one thing and do it really well, as was in a trusted way, and say it when they need it. So just curious, would you guys respond to that? Because right now we've only got one product that we're marketing.
We have about 3, but we don't have the rapid response capability at the present. Any comments, Victor or Graham?
The topic of not only health of immigrants and refugees, but the immigrant and refugee situation as a whole is on the agenda of the next Royal Society of Canada Executive Committee meeting, with the possibility that we'll prepare a report. Whether or not we can do it without funding in 2 months is, of course, another question.
Not tackling whether that's the subject or not, obviously that's your decision. I still say that the Council of Academies, as been pointed out by Graham and others, maybe can provide you with a lot of that infrastructure to work together in some of these big areas.
I think we have time for one more. Any burning? We've got the 3 experts, the broad reps. Yeah, here's one over here. Yeah. Maybe you can start your question even without the mic.
Tom Parker from the University of Toronto. When I look at our large department of medicine, one of our most important human resources, in fact, are our younger people. So perhaps if we could focus on this aging academic concept, is there a mechanism by which the councils can engage younger scientists and healthcare practitioners as we start to think about these issues? I know the Royal Society has a new scholars program, and maybe it's something our academy should be considering as well.
Graham, could you comment on the Young Scholars, this innovative program?
Certainly. What we've done is to set up a college for new scholars, artists, and scientists. This is membership is limited in time to 7 years. It's limited in eligibility to 15 years post-PhD. It extends across the whole range of fields covered by the Royal Society, which includes not only natural sciences, but also the social sciences and the arts. It has an intake of about somewhere between 50 and 70 per year, with the intention that at the end of the 7-year period during which it will grow to full size, it will contain several hundred members, 500 or 600 members, so it will be a substantial body. Many other academies throughout the world have set up young academies or the equivalent, but in general these are small and modest, often only 25 or 30 members. Instead, what we propose is to set up a very substantial body of the best young scientists and scholars in Canada under the aegis of the Royal Society, with a status comparable to that of our existing academies. And I hope that that will provide a solution to the dilemma of the aging population, that we shall reform from within and create within the bosom of the society a body of young scientists and scholars who will keep us in contact with what is happening in the academic world day to day. That's my reply.
Victor, any equivalent at the National Academies or the
certainly, as I showed earlier, the fellowship idea. The challenge we have, of course, is that our members are elected, and that they're elected by members. So they go through different sections to begin with, and there are membership committee that look at different sections, rank them, but eventually it's the complete election. So you can't really proscribe this. And obviously, when my conversation with Ralph Cicero the other day was really quite illuminating. The average age of a NAS member is 71 years old, right? So we recognize this. What we've done is actually we push harder in diversity and age, and give, shall we say, some special consideration every year, make sure we meet certain level to be sure that we're meeting that. Beyond that, we really can't change the membership criteria, because it is about excellence. But we're creating Young Leaders Forum. We're creating these fellowship. In fact, in the annual meeting this year, we're actually going to have university students here engage with us as well. Just creating an inclusive place, but not changing necessarily the initial charter of what members should be. I mean, they are elected, and I don't think we're going to change that.
Paul, any reflections on where we might go or what role?
I think what Graham Bell has articulated for the Royal Society is an excellent model, and I do think Tom Parker's right, and some form of time-limited early fellowship association would be a welcome agenda for the new president and board.